Interior Minister now saying that President Macron's #1 priority is fighting terrorism. Robin Simcox joins me now. He is the Terror and National Security Analyst for the Margaret Thatcher Center at the Heritage Foundation. Thank you for joining us. What's your initial take on what we saw today?
Well, it's once again we're seeing an attack in France and even in Notre Dame. Notre Dame itself was targeted last summer. ISIS, you may remember, 2 of its operatives slit the throat of a priest at Mass in Normandy last summer. So ISIS likes to target religious institutions. It likes to target France. So it's no surprise that we've seen religious institutions in France once again targeted, and especially significant perhaps because we've seen the offensive on Raqqa begin, and some kind of response to that seemed inevitable.
Even though this is as low-tech as it comes, you know, he came in wielding a hammer, hit a police officer in the head with that, but apparently he was armed with other knives. The reports say kitchen knives. He cried, "This is for Syria." If you couple it together with everything else that has been going on and the attacks that we have seen here and in London, what should the response be?
Well, this is the big problem for European countries, really. I mean, I think there are some things you have to do. You have to increase counter-terrorism spending in certain countries, get the intelligence sharing apparatus within those countries right, deport national security terror suspects where possible, prevent people coming into the country who are a potential threat. This individual was from Algeria, so there needs to be questions asked around that. But ultimately, you have this ideology that's propelling these groups, and that ideology shows no sign of weakening. As long as it doesn't, you're going to have attacks like this.
Okay, so let's break down some of the things that you said there. You said prevent people coming into the country. You know, he was traveling from Algeria. Obviously, that is an incredibly hot-button issue here in the U.S. right now as we talk about trying to limit the travel of people who are either coming from places, you know, that are hotbeds of terrorism or where governments can't have fallen apart in essence, and it's very difficult to judge, you know, whether these people are safe to travel here or not. It's a big issue here. So how do you respond to the uproar?
Well, absolutely. And I think Europe is a great example of what happens when you get this policy wrong. And this isn't just a recent phenomenon. In the 1990s, Europe took in a whole host of refugees and asylum seekers from countries like Algeria and Egypt and Libya and Jordan. They were people who were fleeing authoritarian nations, but a lot of those that came in were, to be frank, national security threats. They were Islamists who helped radicalize a generation of people in Europe. So there are very clear incentives to get this right and very clear consequences when governments get this wrong.
Yes, but I mean, we are talking about profiling people that are of a certain faith and coming from a certain place, and there's, you know, obviously been great resistance, even in the form of courts stopping the president from putting some of those actions into place.
Yes, and obviously we don't know the complete outcome of what the courts will decide on that. I mean, President Trump isn't onto nothing when he sees that there is when we talk about the threat from some of the countries involved. I mean, Yemen, Syria and Iraq, clearly there are very virulent terrorist groups operating in that theater, and there is a natural need for the U.S. to be wary of groups infiltrating refugee flows into the U.S. because we've seen it happen in Europe. The Paris attacks of November 2015, part of those cells were refugees that came in with the migrant flow. So there's obviously a national security imperative here that needs addressing somehow.
Yeah, tough issue. Robin, thank you.